Hey everyone, I'm Anna Berry,
And I'm Tom Bielkini.
and this is Behind the Scenes Oklahoma.
Welcome to Behind the Scenes Oklahoma. I'm so happy to welcome Klein Haley, the writer and director of Bloodstained Ivory. And Klein, I just finished watching the movie.
Oh no.
And that's why I wanted to just jump in. I was like, I don't want to do any pre how are you? How's your Monday? I just wanted to jump in and go, holy. First of all, it's a damn good movie. And I
Thank
don't
you.
and I don't say that lightly. It's a really good movie.
Thank you.
Second of all, it hits home to the artist in me, right? The performer, the old soul. And I feel so many people who are artists in one way or another. I'm sure it gets them, it grips them, it hurts them. So bravo for creating a great movie. I just wanted to start with that.
Appreciate that. Thank you for the kind words.
All right, so I'm sure our viewers are like, well, what is a movie? So Bloodstained Ivory, I'm going to call it a psychological thriller, right? I mean,
Sure, yeah.
first I wasn't sure, and then I was like, is this going to be a horror film? And luckily it wasn't a horror film, but it definitely was a psychological thriller. So I want to give you the floor. Tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, and then let's go right into this film.
Sure, yeah. So my name is Klein Haley. I grew up in Seminole, Oklahoma. I went to school at the University of Oklahoma, studied film there. Now I live in Oklahoma City, and I work professionally in the industry in Tulsa and Oklahoma and across the country, primarily as an assistant director. That's kind of like my day job. And then in between gigs, I'll direct my own stuff. Bloodstained Ivory is my first feature film. We premiered at Dead Center last month, and we actually just screened yesterday at Circle Cinema, which was fantastic. Both great festivals, and I'm glad that we were able to screen in the two main film areas of Oklahoma. But yeah, the film is about an aspiring concert pianist. He's in his last year of music school. He has these big goals and aspirations to become the next big solo pianist, like these guys you see like Lang Lang and these really famous pianists. And he kind of starts to realize through his endeavors in his final year that he may not be that close to what he wants to achieve. So he, through that realization and through a few things that happen, he starts taking these desperate actions, and he just kind of slowly, his mental health starts deteriorating, and he starts going to extreme lengths to try to secure his future and achieve his goals, because he thinks if he doesn't get to the very pinnacle, then it's all a complete failure. And so it's kind of about that toxic mindset and how he slowly unravels and how that affects the people around him.
And it was shot in Oklahoma City, is that correct?
Yeah, it was shot in Oklahoma City, largely at Oklahoma City University.
Okay.
We used all their music facilities.
OCU.
It's a great place. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it had a very global feeling to it as well, which I appreciate. I love that you're from Seminole, Oklahoma, yet you have this global cast with the French. Was that Liszt himself? Was that kind of, who was that gentleman, that almost ghost-like French gentleman in the movie?
Yeah, so that's supposed to be kind of like a main character's kind of mental visualization of Franz Liszt. And it's kind of this old composer that he's aspiring to be very similar to. That's the piece he's playing is composed by that gentleman. And so he's kind of like, it's kind of a reflection of himself in a way, but it's kind of, and it also helps kind of illustrate how deep into his psyche he's kind of falling throughout this whole process. So yeah, that was a little tidbit of music history that we had to throw in there.
Well, it was wonderful. How did you come to write a story about the depths of this music? Are you a musician yourself?
Yeah, so I trained classically in piano starting in like the first grade up through high school. And so I did that. I was also in band. I played the trumpet. So I have a bit of a music background.
Okay.
I never went quite as far as like where this movie takes place. Like
You didn't go crazy?
No, well, maybe for other reasons, but
Right.
but you know, I wasn't familiar with like the conservatory or like the higher education level of music, so I had to do a bit of research in that regard. And largely, Oklahoma City University was very helpful in that, talking to professors there, students there, and kind of getting insight from them. We also, our actors, piano teachers were from the University of Oklahoma. So we were just kind of tapping into every resource we could find, and I just listened to a bunch of classical music, and we kind of just made it all come together.
Wow. Well, let me tell you, I went to a conservatory for acting in Chicago, and it had a cut system where they let in 100 people for the BFA and the MFA class, and it narrowed down to 10 people.
Oh my God.
By chance or by will, I made it to the
Yeah.
last 10, but it was a very intense situation. No one died, no one was hurt, no one went crazy, at least in my class. But I do remember when you found out if you made it for the next year, and it was pretty tense. And I do remember the teachers being utterly cruel to me, especially what I had to work on personally. Get over yourself, Anna. They put me in all the ugly, hard, challenging, small little roles. I mean, until the end, finally, my fourth year, I got a lead and I got to sing and own the stage. And, I was like,
Yeah.
this whole time. But that's what these conservatories must do to almost break you down. And so let's talk about your main actor. I was reading a little bit and watching a little bit about your behind the scenes. He's pretty new. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's very new. So he just finished training at NYU, so similar to kind of the experience you're talking about. So I think it was pretty easy for him to tap into kind of that cutthroat mentality that a lot of these schools take, and how it kind of feels life and death in the moment. And then, only years later can you take a step back and be like, well, maybe we took that a little too far. But it does, in the moment, it feels like, all the pressure of the world is on you. So I knew, he training at NYU with the history they have there, that he was, even though he didn't have an extensive background, that he definitely would have the chops for it. And seeing the initial auditions that he did for us, I don't give a lot of context to the auditions, especially when you're casting these younger folks. I want to see where they're at naturally and kind of like what instincts they're going to bring to it. And he brought the instincts there, and I saw Ross already when he did his initial audition. So I
And
knew
this is
that.
the actor Nick Schoenberg, yes?
Yeah, Nick Skonberg. He's originally from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and then he moved to New York, went to NYU. He just graduated, I believe, and so he's living in New York now. So he's there. But yeah, he's fantastic. One of the most instinctual actors I've ever worked with. Just to see him kind of come in and out of the moment was really beautiful to watch. But he had a lot of pressure on him in this movie. I told him in our first call, I was like, this is going to take a lot of your time. The next 6 months of your life are going to be this movie and the training with the piano, and also just it's kind of the first time for both of us working with such a large arc. It's my first feature film. It's his first like really big character arc through a whole film, because you have to take him from just an ordinary guy with these aspirations to ultimately what he becomes, which is this violent monster basically. And so that was tough for us to kind of find the balance of how do we achieve that realistically? How could you really get somebody to that point and not make it just too over the top? So he did a really great job mapping it out. He had maps drawn out that would take like a whole wall of like all the story beats and like where his character goes and where his mindset's at. So it was really cool to watch him do his thing.
How beautiful, the writer, director, actor relationship, and you happen to be both. And I mean, that's what every actor dreams of, is an opportunity like that you gave him to truly show the arc, the humanity, the insanity, all in one beautiful profile piece. So very inspired and envious too. I mean, that's just wonderful. That's wonderful. We all crave that. Now, I have to ask, so he's from New York. So how did that audition process? How did this Oklahoma written film casting, how did that get to him, and how did he get here?
Yeah, so I knew with something that's more on the dramatic side, the cast, especially with a low budget thing, the cast was going to be hugely important. And also, we were so concerned about the piano aspect of things, because all the main characters all have their moment to kind of perform a piece. So we tried to expand, especially for those lead 3 or 4 actors, to expand this to a nationwide search. So we were definitely looking at all the acting schools in Oklahoma, but knew because of how niche what we were doing was, that we'd really have to look and see who's the rising young talent in the country. So we used Backstage, and we were just kind of a shot in the dark looking for, there's a lot of duds that came through, but Nick just happened to stand out. As soon as I saw his headshot, I was like, that looks like a Ross, like who I was writing. And so I kind of looked through his reel, and I saw a few scenes where I was like, I could see a little bit of Ross in that. And so we had him do an audition, and we just got really lucky to find somebody that was so willing to commit themselves. Because I mean, we shot in January of 2024, right when his school was coming back into session. So he had to miss some class, and like you said, those conservatories, those acting schools, they don't take that lightly, even if it is for something that you're trying to achieve as an actor. So it was a lot of risk on his end. but he committed to it, and I think you see that commitment pay off in the final product.
Really worth it. Okay, so you said backstage. I mean, as an actress, I'm like Actors Access, casting network, backstage. It worked.
It
I mean, this
worked.
is a big deal. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 plus years and it's expensive and it's time consuming, but this is proof to our actors listening. So you keep auditioning or you keep submitting and it works. So what was it on backstage? You mentioned his headshot, and then what was the next step from that?
Yeah, it was the headshot, and then like I said, he had a reel, and it wasn't like you said, he's a younger actor. He hasn't done a whole lot. He's done more theater stuff than film, I would say. So I watched the little reel that he had, and it was only like 2 scenes. But it's just him talking to another person. So just seeing, you see the headshot and it's like, okay, this looks like who I was writing. And you can kind of see in the eyes sometimes, like, oh, that looks like a guy who go to a dark place. And then you watch some of those scenes and just kind of see the body move and how he interacts in the space. And you can see that, even if the character's not necessarily the same, you see that he's in the moment and that you can buy that that's a person in a room talking to this other person. So that was that kind of the process there. Obviously, look at resumes and stuff, and I see that he had done a lot of theater stuff in high school. He had gone to USC, got like invited to USC at some point in high
Okay.
school for like some theater things. So I knew he was coveted and sought after to a certain extent. And obviously NYU was a big deal. So that was enough for us. But even outside of that, even if you don't have those accolades or you're getting started later in life, I sent an audition out to basically everybody. Anybody who put in for it, I said, go ahead and shoot us an audition. Like, let's see what you have. And then from there, you just go at who fits the part best. We had a lot of great auditions from great actors. I was like, you obviously know what you're doing and you're fantastic at what you do, just not right for this particular role in this particular movie. So
Totally.
I would say, yeah, people should, because we found the older Professor Verez, the lady with the accent, we got her from backstage too. So like this was a process that we looked at as many people as we could, and just I think the tenacity that you ask them, those actors, they audition for as many things as they can, and then they're in a place where they can be selective about the projects that they do.
Yes, absolutely. But there comes a time when you need a hit. You
Yeah,
need,
absolutely.
because
Yeah.
if when you've been doing it for a long time, you think, oh, he's not going to read my resume. But you read the resume. So actors listen, they read resumes. So I want to talk about the Oklahoma cast. Was that Kane Graham I saw on there?
That was Kane Graham. Yes. He
Great job.
is. So my senior project at OU, that's where I met him. He was the lead in that short film called The Funeral. And actually I had work or something, and I had missed the initial auditions we did for that, because it was like a group class thing. So all these actors came in and auditioned for all of the student projects that we're filming. And he came in, and one of my classmates told me, like, if you don't cast this guy, you're insane. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll go meet him at Starbucks and have a conversation with him. And luckily the auditions were recorded and I got to see those, and he is great. So he was the lead in that. The next short film I did, the first project outside of school that I did, called In the Face of Evil, he was the lead in that. And so I knew I had to find a spot to fit him in for this project, and hopefully every project I do in the future, because he's a very good friend of mine. He's a very talented actor. He just moved back to Tulsa, actually. And so it's been a pleasure working with him, and I'm glad that we were able to find a great role for him in this movie. I think he fits that role perfectly. It's a smaller role, but it's very integral to the story.
It's a great role, and it was so fun to go, I know that guy. I don't know him as well as you, but I've actually read with him at the PJ Sosco's Sandbox,
Yes.
and then saw him at the Dead Center with Tori, and it was really cool to see him on screen, and he did a great job. Tell me about some of the other actors from Oklahoma or the crew from Oklahoma.
Absolutely. So McKenna, who is our lead actress, she plays Vanessa. She's originally from Texas, but she was going to school at the University of Oklahoma at the time. And we got really lucky with her, because we literally, through this casting process, we just put like casting call flyers on every billboard in every acting school in this state, basically. And she just happened to see one of those flyers, sent in a tape. And we were really surprised. OU specifically, we had a lot of great auditions for Vanessa come from OU. And we ended up casting a few more people from OU. Ripley Cooley's in it for a little bit. She came from OU. Yeah, so it was great to see such a talented actress like McKenna, who's already she's moved to LA at this point. She's acting in Amazon Prime series. Like she is all of our younger casts, like you can just tell that they're lightning in a bottle about to pop off. So that was fantastic. Laron Marzette, who plays Donovan, he was born and raised in Oklahoma. He lives in Atlanta now, but was willing to come back. He's come back to Oklahoma for a few projects. Close Enough to Burn, made by some really good friends of mine that he stars in, that also premiered at Dead Center. He plays a complete opposite character in that one. He just had a movie that he directed himself come out on Tubi called House on Adams Drive, and that's a whole different side of Laron that you'll never want to see again. That movie's crazy. But yeah, so those were some of the great ones. The guy who plays Franz Liszt, Eric Jekyll, he is from Bartlesville. I met him on Reservation Dogs as an extra and a stand-in, and I've worked with him for years. And I was thinking I'd written this role for this real life person. I was like, who the heck am I gonna find to play this guy? And then I just saw him on set one day, and I was like, of course, Eric is perfect for this. Like he looks just like him. So he's in it. And then basically everybody else you see from that point on is all Oklahoma friends of mine, people who have starred in films of mine before. And then on the crew side, it's top to bottom Oklahoma. And we have such a talented young core that works professionally in this industry at lower tier levels that are ready to make that jump to like director of photography, gaffer, key grip. So we were able to offer that opportunity for them. So people like Sam Taylor, who was a cinematographer for us, a producer for us, got to show that he's capable of shooting a feature film. And then we have people like Cash Kirchner, Blake Bennett as our G&E team. Chris Anderson is our sound mixer and also a producer for us. So top to bottom, we were able to take these people who, like myself, have been working professionally in the industry for a few years and are ready to take that jump and make our own projects instead of people coming from out of the state and then hiring us. We're able to create something here homegrown and give them those opportunities to be in leadership positions. So it was
Yeah.
fantastic to see everybody rise to the occasion.
Well, I love that you shouted out to all those people. Who was the production company? Is it one, or did you just kind of form your people?
Yeah, it's so when I made that first movie out of college, Luis Suarez, who's the main producer on this project, as well as that one, we founded a company called DEC, kind of inspired by my old YouTube channel where I made skits in Seminole, and we just make little comedy short films
I
for
get it.
YouTube. So we just kind of took that name and ran with it. So we made In the Face of Evil under that company, and then we made this movie under that company as well.
What's the name of the production company?
It's called DEC Productions.
DEC Productions. Okay. Well, yes. I mean, the acting, from an actor's perspective, the acting was so legit, and it's so important for our young actors. And I don't, mean to be an ageist, but I'm 42, and I left Tulsa at 18, went to Chicago, went to Los Angeles, New York City, learned life, had some great life lessons, came back, and now incorporating them. And I think that's so important. As much as I want our state to have amazing creatives, they also need to get out and go to LA and do that, and go to Atlanta and do that, and New York City, amazing cities to really learn, build your chops, and then develop relationships with someone like you, come back, shoot films here. I mean, that's the goal, is to be multi-citied. If there's a better word for that, let me know. But yeah, to be able to come to Oklahoma and work, and go to New York City and work, and go to LA and work, and then choose where you want to live, because in the global world, we can live where we want and work where we want. At least that's my goal and many goals. So I applaud those actors doing that. And then I also want to shout out to the things that matter, like your sound. The audio was so good, so crisp. Those little things. The set, I loved the shots. I mean, the hallway shots and the auditorium shots. I mean, really good. Did the movie Whiplash have an influence on you at all? My boyfriend's a drummer, so we watched that movie with our eyes closed as well. But he was like, oh my God, it's like Whiplash.
Absolutely. Yeah. Whiplash was a huge inspiration. Black Swan was a huge inspiration.
Oh.
There Will Be Blood was a big inspiration for us. Similar like protagonists in the sense that they kind of thrive off of destroying the competition, and they have this urge to be the best in their field. And so those were definitely hugely inspirational. But I'm glad you mentioned like the sound and the different things like that, because Chris Anderson was our production sound mixer, and he went above and beyond, because some of those piano performances we had to capture live on set. Like some of them are licensed recordings or recordings we did in a studio, but some of them, like the practice sessions where you have to get these mistakes, like nobody's recording pieces and like pieces that you can license with mistakes in them. So we have to have our hand double Nathaniel Maxwell from OU as well, come in and make those mistakes live. And then Chris brings in all these microphones, this microphone array to put around the piano. And then we take that to our sound designers, Andy Hopkins and Rob Derrick at OK Sounds Good. They have a studio in Oklahoma City, the heart of Oklahoma City, and they are some of the best in the state doing what they do. And they were able to bring this film to life because when you're telling a story from a character's perspective, such a soul perspective like this one is, you really, through the cinematography, through the sound design, you have to transport the audience into his head as well. And so finding creative ways to do that, the whole team really came. And also Lennon Bramlett, who did the score for the movie, he has to be in the character's head as well, and thinking about how do we match these emotions that he's going through. So it was a huge collaboration, and I love to just give people the ability to kind of experiment. I try not to give a whole lot of notes that first time around, and just see like what could you bring to this, because I could be there giving these small little notes as much as I want to, and then it'd be exactly what I had envisioned, but that may not be the best that it could be. If I give these really talented people a chance to do what they want to do, it often comes out and you find things that you never would have found before. So it was great working with those talented people. And that's just another example of what I was talking about with these people who are ready to go to that next level and show, the talent that they have.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that. The score was really powerful. It flowed perfectly. It added to the intensity and the desperation, and it was great. It was great. I want to ask a little bit about the film festival. I know a lot of our filmmakers out there are like, how do I submit to these film festivals? So talk a little bit about the process of submitting, and then what it was like at Dead Center and then at Circle Cinema.
Yeah, so film festival submission, it's grueling, it's demoralizing. It's one of those things that I'm sure as actors know, it's kind of like submitting a bunch of auditions and getting
Yes.
nothing but rejections back.
Yeah, it's called payback for you guys.
Exactly. So, we started submitting late last fall, and to get to Dead Center was probably 20 rejection letters before that. So it's just submitting. It's good to have a plan, know what your movie is and what festivals it will fit into. Obviously, our movie could kind of fit into a horror festival, but may not be exactly what they're looking for. So maybe not waste the time and money submitting to something like that. So we were looking at festivals who have highlighted films similar to ours in the past, but also making sure we're not too derivative of those things. And then so you submit on Film Freeway, or some of the foreign ones, you have to go to their website and submit through them. So there's a bunch of different processes. So just do as much research as you can. Find who the big players are in the film festival industry, and also how they can benefit you in terms of finding distribution, creating publicity, different things like that. Because you may have, really, the market's difficult because really only 4 or 5 festivals in the world are like you get in and you're for sure going to get sold to somebody.
Right.
So finding those more mid-level ones like Dead Center, where you can still, people show up for them. You may not have as many buyers coming to those, but people show up and they generate buzz, and that helps you when you're trying to leverage to get your film sold to somebody. So Dead Center was huge in that. And also it was great to come premiere, obviously, in the town that it was shot in. So that was really great. And Dead Center's grown so much. Like, to come on their 25th anniversary was very, very fun, very impressive to see how far they've come. And then Circle Cinema is still up and coming. I think this is only like their 8th year. And this is my first time attending the festival. And it was just such a blast. And it was so cool to see the community come together there, because it's all in that one venue with their multiple screens. But yeah, so it's just a big process, and knowing that it's going to take a year or two to finish the festival circuit, depending on, when you want to call it quits. But yeah, just knowing that for every acceptance that you get, there's probably going to be 20 or 30 rejections on top of that, and just kind of being strategic in how you approach it.
So did you get anything from these festivals? And what's next?
Yeah, so Dead Center, we almost sold out both screenings, and so we got a lot of buzz from that. We got to talk to distributors and different people who, more than anything, just gave us advice on how to navigate the market. And then Circle Cinema, we won Best Narrative Feature there, which was a huge honor. Yeah, so it was fantastic to be highlighted in that way, to have the cast and crew acknowledged for their hard work. Yeah, so now the process looks like we have more festivals hopefully coming up throughout the rest of the year. And then hopefully late this year, early next year, we'll have the movie out on some streaming platform, somewhere where people can watch it at home, maybe even in a theater. We'll see what happens. But yeah, the goal is to get it out as quickly as possible so that everybody in the world can see what we created.
Okay. Do you have a distribution plan or a distribution dream?
I mean, the dream's always some sort of like limited theatrical run. Those are very hard to come by these days. So I'm not gonna hold out for it, but it's something that we'll try to achieve. But yeah, so the plan right now is just we're talking to as many people as we can to see what's on the table, what these different deals look like. But at the end of the day, we want to find somebody that's going to match our goals in getting eyeballs on it so that people can see the hard work that was put into this project and highlight the talent that went into the project so that more people can get more work and hopefully that we can make more movies with this partner in the future.
Great. So you have this, I mean, it's not under your belt. It is nice. It's a belt buckle right now. So what might be next for you and DEC Productions? Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. So I'm working on a couple scripts right now, still early in the writing process, but the goal of mine is always to go bigger and better. So like we did the funeral, the senior capstone project, then we did a half-hour like short film that was a bigger budget. We had to raise the money for it, and then we went to a feature film. So now it's to get to a bigger budget feature film, one that's a bit more intensive. So I have a couple different projects. One requires a lot of money, one requires a lot of money but not as much money. So it's finishing those up and then just trying to find a way to keep financing independent film. Not saying that I wouldn't be opposed to a studio cutting us a check. That would be fantastic. But knowing that, nobody's going to come running in like these dream scenarios that you hear of. You have to assume that you're always going to have to do it yourself.
Yep.
And so that's the mindset that I'm taking now that we've screened Bloodstained Ivory. I'm going to do everything I can to get it across the finish line and get it out into the world. But my mindset now is finishing these scripts and then keep creating these projects that we want to create and finding ways to highlight the different talents that the whole team has and hopefully just keep building on it and going bigger and better until, we're doing this for a living in the way that we want to do it.
Did you utilize any of the resources, the incentives or rebates? Did you have any support or did you do it all on your own? I don't know what your budget was.
Yeah, it was a very low budget. We weren't able to access any of the rebates or anything like that, but we
Okay.
did have a lot of support from the film office and from Oklahoma City in terms of permitting, getting different allowances to do certain things. Oklahoma City University, again, was hugely helpful. We basically got to use that building for free, which is like a $10,000 location if you were to actually shoot there with like a real movie, so then we come in and we just kind of pitch them on, we're young artists and they're like, we're totally supportive of that. So they were very generous to us. We had a grant from Panavision for all the camera equipment, which was hugely helpful. We basically got an entire camera package from them, monitors, batteries, everything you could ask for. So we're very appreciative of them, with their new filmmakers grant. It's something that everybody should look into because they're really, people think of Panavision as, oh, they're helping the biggest movies. They have these really crazy cameras and all this film stock and these different things that you can do. But they also have a whole program just dedicated to new filmmakers and making sure that they have what they need because they have all this extra equipment just kind of lying in the back room. And so they find ways to utilize that for up and coming filmmakers. So like we had a lens that was used on the original Blade Runner, is the rumor. There's like this 40 millimeter lens that has like some molding in it from the rain, the tears in the rain scene. So it was amazing to be able to use legendary equipment like that, and it really helps our talented folks behind the camera create the images that you see. So we had support through and through, whether it be financially or just resources that people offered. The entire crew, nobody was making the rate that they deserve on a movie like this, but they come out because they love cinema and they want to support Oklahoma filmmakers, knowing that if we invest now, that 5-10 years down the line, we'll see dividends from that.
Absolutely. So that was a grant from Panavision. I want to make sure our viewers know about that. How can you feel more supported? What is something you feel like we're lacking or you would like to have more of as a filmmaker here in Oklahoma?
Yeah, I think, like I said, so there's a lot of, I mean, the community is great. There's a lot of support in any way you slice it. But I think particularly with younger filmmakers, I think we can sometimes get locked in with the people who are more established. I think if we can go, especially to the film schools, and have our community seek out those voices, because it's been a little difficult us trying to break through certain barriers and trying to just get our voices out there and like screaming, we are here, we're making movies. And obviously, as the filmmakers ourselves, we have to do the due diligence to show that we're competent and that we can back up the talk, basically. And so I feel that we've done that with the movies that we've made. But there's a whole slew of these other younger filmmakers that are doing this, and it just feels like if they don't pump out 3 more feature films over 10 years, then eventually they'll be highlighted as an Oklahoma filmmaker. I think with where we're at as a community and as a state, we should be seeking out this younger talent because that's where the gold mine is. And like you said, people want to go out to these different cities and they want to find, where the industry actually is, quote unquote. If we can seek them out earlier on and give them more resources and promote what they're trying to do and keep them here, then we'll be able to expand. And like I said, not have people, directors, producers come from out of state coming in, and we can start creating something that's homegrown.
Absolutely. You said that perfectly. Well, I think it's fun that you're in this position and you seem to have a great team around you and you have something to show. And I haven't seen the funeral of the other ones, but this is a really great showcase piece and Oklahoma should be proud, and we'll continue to follow along with you and your progress. I think it's fun that we don't know each other, but you sent me multiple emails for The Way I Heard It with Mike Rowe.
Yes.
I was an actress in that. I was in 3 of those, and that was such a joy. So much fun working with Impact Productions and Mike Rowe. I mean, I didn't get to work with him personally, but I feel like I have a kinship with him.
Oh,
so
yeah.
What was your role on that again?
I was the second assistant director, so I definitely was the email guy, mostly holed up in a trailer on a laptop most of the time. But no, that was a great shoot. And that one was fun because it's an anthology. And so I had, just over the course of a few weeks, hundreds of actors that I'm having to communicate with, and it's all period pieces. So we have these crazy costumes and makeup that we're having to do. So that was a fun challenge for sure, and I loved working on that. That was definitely a highlight of that year for sure.
It was so fun. Yeah, I did Bob Ross's basically agent, the woman who discovered Bob Ross.
Oh, wow.
And then I was Jim Morrison's mom.
Okay.
And then I was just featured in the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier on a really hot day in Guthrie, Oklahoma.
Yes, I remember that one. There's a lot of hot days in Guthrie.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much. It's so good to virtually meet you. And when you have a very strong female role, I would love to audition for it.
Absolutely. Hopefully very soon.
Wonderful. All right. Well, we will make sure that the world knows about Klein Haley and Bloodstained Ivory and DEC Productions. So thank you so much for joining us on Behind the Scenes Oklahoma.
Thank you.
Won't you head on down to Tulsa? There's a building there, and your spark's lost its flare, and you ain't going nowhere. Sit on steps and let the breeze